I say that the official currency of the new global reset, the official reserve currency, is Dogecoin.
Dogecoin.
Yeah.
I invested in Dogecoin just like change, like a couple $100, like a couple months ago. It was back when the GameStop thing was happening, and it went down and then up, and I really kind of just stayed even. I was like, I'm getting out of this, and then I hear today, Robinhood again freezes it because it went up 40%. Oh, I don't know if I told you, but I lost some money on GameStop too because I shorted it with my put options.
Mentioned that. Yeah.
Okay. And then the day before they expired, they decided to pump it again. And
man.
Yep. Everyone, welcome to Reformed Jellicle. We're the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams, hosted by AD Robles. AD, how you doing today?
I'm doing great over here. Just loving life and just thinking about Dogecoin. That's all I'm thinking about.
Do you have Dogecoin?
No.
No.
The dog is so cute, though. The little dog.
It is. It's so cute.
He's adorable.
We need to talk about blockchain, another fulfilled prophecy by the Reformed Jellicle crew. Remind me after our little intro. Welcome to everyone live, Montana. Hello, Debbie, Ted, Edward. Thank you all for joining us live, along with all the others that are joining us right now. We really appreciate it. If you're listening to the recording, wherever you listen to a podcast, you can join us for the show, ask us questions, be involved, pay us money and super chats and whatnot. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Don't worry, it all goes to AD Robles. I am doing my my good whitely duty and paying my reparations to AD.
We should start investing in Dogecoin with it. Every dollar.
Yes.
Just put it in Doge.
Yeah, we should. We really should. And if you don't catch us live recording, you can just wherever podcasts are on YouTube and Twitter, as long as we're on there. Fridays we try to release all that good stuff. So okay. So a prophecy fulfillment yet again by Reformed Jellicle.
We're just so good at this.
It's weird. It's weird. I'm not gonna lie. I've been going to a church that's cessational for the most part. Very lethargic, lethargic, Reformed, CREC. But with all this fulfillment of prophecy, I might have to go find me some Pentecostal. Like, what are the Pentecostal denominations?
Assemblies of God, stuff like that. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, no. I'm not. I am a cessationist myself, but I do come from a long line of Pentecostals. So I don't know. Maybe I got some of that anointing or something.
For the record, I'm in the middle of the road. I'm a squish. I believe in both.
Everyone's a squish at something.
Everyone is. Okay, so here is the Bitcoin insider information, and the lead was buried. It wasn't even part of the story of the point of what he was saying, but I was listening to War Room Pandemic. I watch it every day. It's been one of my new favorite podcasts, and that's Steve Bannon's show. And oftentimes he has Peter Navarro on his show. He was the lead economist for Donald Trump. So he was the one implementing the policies, making the recommendations. He went to Harvard. He has his PhD and all this stuff. And he kind of said, like in passing, it wasn't even the point of what he said. Is like, oh yeah, on Bitcoin, we know how to reverse engineer and decode every single person on Bitcoin. And I went and I looked at Bitcoin and it was down like 8% just instantly from him saying that. But he's like, and then he said, it's just a math problem. You're just reverse engineering it. And he said it just like it was no big deal. There you go,
listen,
guys.
I'll tell you what. This is the thing about something like Bitcoin, because I'm not anti cryptocurrency, but when people say preposterous things about Bitcoin, then I just get a little bit upset. It's like, well, it's completely unhackable. Like that's not true. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you start to like oversell to the point where like it's almost perfection. Like I don't like that kind of stuff. I mean, even like like you even think like, okay, so like there's nothing that's perfect. Like, even cash, like let's just say you had cash or even gold or whatever, like someone could steal it from you. Like it's not like there's not a perfect solution here. So when you start to hear people talk about it as if it's perfection personified, like obviously it's not unhackable. It's probably very hard to hack.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it was this specifically that I was referring to, but I did a cab last week and said we need to have some kind of Tower of Babel nomenclature for these kinds of things where everyone talks it up as being this perfect, indestructible thing like the Titanic or Bitcoin or whatever it is. because inevitably it's going to be destroyed somehow. It's like God is not going to allow something like that to have
Right,
that
right.
reputation. It's
That's
just
true. That's
inevitable.
true.
You're going to bring it crashing down. I mean, the ship, like the Titanic ship, was a fantastic ship. It was the
Right.
hubris of the people to think that it was impenetrable that destroyed it. But otherwise, it would have been a great ship. So,
Well, there's some conspiracy theories about that ship, so I don't want to go into them, but
oh, really?
it
Yeah,
might
we
have
got
been.
plenty of conspiracy theories to go through
It
today.
might have
Oh
been.
my
It might have
goodness.
been torpedoed.
Did they have torpedoes back then?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It was an alien. It was an alien.
Maybe it was
UFO.
It could have been. It could have been.
That's what it was. Okay, there is a bug in the office, but that's not what I was going to say.
Hey, that's
Some
okay.
interesting things about Rick Warren that I didn't even know about. Well, Montana Viking says that Rick Warren's sermons are being played at Assembly of God, which I didn't think he was an Assembly of God person. And someone
you go.
said below, he's SBC.
I thought he was SBC. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never even heard of the SBC, and I lived 15 minutes from his church. I didn't even know that was an SBC church.
That's the thing about SBC churches. Like, you have to know that they're SBC, and there's probably a list somewhere, but I don't know where it is. But most churches don't say we're SBC. You know, they just, you know, they're just churches. You know, because it's
Interesting.
kind of like a loose affiliation, a loose cooperation. So a lot of SBC churches will not even mention the SBC on their website if they have a website.
That's really fascinating to me, because I just figured in Southern California we never had those things because it's not really denominational heavy, in my opinion. It's
Sure.
more pastor superstar heavy. Rick Warren, John
Yeah.
MacArthur, you know, all of them. So
Yeah, and then
Anyways.
then of course the personality will like often overshine whatever your affiliation is. You know what I mean?
of course. I mean, especially in like where Hollywood, LA is, I mean, it's just inevitable, right? If there wasn't any more evidence that the church is influenced by the culture, like all the superstar pastors are mostly in Southern California, right next to
Yeah.
LA and stuff. It's pretty funny. All right, so here
He's
is.
pretty rocking.
I need you to talk me off of the ledge, and I've been leaning this way for the last week now, and especially looking at all the show prep and the things that are in the show notes.
A lot.
I don't know if it's like red pilling or waking up or coming to the conclusion, but before I was trying to stop the Great Reset from happening. And the globalists love it. They talk about it. We've heard Trudeau talk about it. Build Back Better is one of the White House's slogans right now. It's all about destroying and then building back up to what the globalist wants. And for a while, I've been speaking out and talking and thinking through things in a way of wanting to prevent the global reset. But just with how corrupt our justice system is, all of our government entities, how we think about things, our entertainment, our culture, I'm starting to think, you know what? Maybe God is going to let this happen for a good reason. And maybe we should want it to happen and just pray that we'll be the ones that are shaping the rebuild. Is that crazy?
Well, no, I mean, so this is kind of like what Christian Reconstruction is all about. So, you know, we understand as Christians that a nation that is turning from God and refusing to live in God's reality and rebelling against him, we understand that nation is short-lived. And so the idea is that you study and train and act and set yourself in such a way that when you're the remnant, you can build back and reconstruct culture and reconstruct society according to God's law, according to the principles of God's law, and essentially, in a sense, build the kingdom of God through discipleship and baptizing the nations. So no, I don't think that's out of bounds. It kind of depends on what you mean, though, because like, you know, you have a tendency of getting all gung ho and mount up and let's grab our pieces kind of thing. Like,
No,
that's a little different.
No. I'm not saying that we're going to, like, someone just called me in the comments an accelerationist. I'm not saying necessarily to participate in the destruction that's happening, meaning the financial collapse or maybe a World War III, which it seems like everyone's starting to kind of drift towards that way anyways, but not trying to prevent it either. Because it's like, what are we trying to save at this point, specifically in the United States? Like, are we really trying to save the tyrant in office that's not elected? Are we really trying to save our justice system that won't even put to trial a police officer that shot someone point blank in the Capitol, but then will like instantly condemn and arrest somebody who was defending a girl from getting her pants pulled down. I just don't see any. I'm struggling to find value in the Western world, and maybe I'm just taking way too many red pills. I don't know what it is, but it's just like the more we hear, the more I think, why? Like, just take it all away. Let's figure out how to survive this. Let judgment come. Let God do what he's going to do, and just figure out how to take steps to be at the rebuild.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that a lot of it is so for me, I'll tell you this, like, I don't want some of this stuff to happen, but part of it is just anxiety over feeling like I'm not prepared, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, that like there's never a good time for society to collapse. No. You know what I mean? Like, there's never a good time for that. So that feeling of anxiety, that's never going away. You can have, you know, all your ducks in a row. You can have your businesses fortified. You could have your hedges and your you know, all that kind of stuff. And it might not matter. I mean, you're not going to actually be ready for it. So I think I can understand fighting back and attempting to delay or stall, but it really does need to be redone. I mean, obviously this has failed. What we've tried has failed to this point. And there's a reason why we're in the positions that we're in. It's because we've failed in our mission up to this point, but it doesn't mean we have to fail forever. So yeah, we need to start establishing more, you know, homeschool networks and things like that. Like, you know, and I always, people always say that I talk too much about Moscow, but you know, that's a very good model. You know, Moscow, Idaho, they're putting in the work now so that when the time comes, they're ready to go. They've got infrastructure. They've got their own book publishing company. There's things to do. There's a lot of work to do. So, yeah, I mean, whatever it is that you choose to do, I don't think that the fall of Babylon can be delayed. I don't think it can be stopped at this point. We're at the point of no return.
Right.
So now I think what you're saying, and I think I would agree then, is let's prepare accordingly that things are going to get crazy, but we want to be in the best position possible to get a good return for Christ, essentially.
Yeah. Amen. Exactly right. I'm just saying, let it ride. Like, let's stop putting our energy in trying to put the brakes on something that obviously isn't going to happen. And, you know, like, let's fight the globalists, or let's fight the inflationary problems and the spending problems in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Obviously, there's nothing that we're going to be able to do about it. We've been trying for a while, and it's just been a fool's errand.
So let me ask you what you're saying. Things like maybe like no more of the don't, like, it would be kind of stupid to donate tons of money to the super PAC that's going to get our boys in office and change it all around. Like that's the kind of thing that you think is a waste of time and money, probably.
As of right now, and I honestly, I played a clip on my show that's going to come out tomorrow from Thomas Sowell. And he said, of course, we could reverse this thing. Yeah, it is possible that it happens. Sure. Is it probable? No. He said, am I going to bet my rent money on it? Absolutely not. This thing's going to be destroyed. He said it's either going to be internal or external. And he said, I'm thankful of how old I am, which is crazy for Thomas Sowell to say that I might not see it happen to us. And so, like, unless things change where we have this ultimate revolt, maybe not necessarily a revolution, but a revolt where we do, for some reason or somehow, are able to take back control of things and reverse the socialism and the communism and the God-hating secular religion. Yeah. Unless we can do that, then there's no more hope in the political system. I think it's just done. I think I'm right there with you on it. And we should be preparing for whatever is going to come, because it isn't going to be pretty. I'm not happy about it. I'm not cheering it on per se. But I think that the wiser strategy is to kind of ride the tide as best as possible and then see where we end up on the other end, is guess what I'm saying. Because it's bad out there right now. It's not pretty. And it's not getting better, I don't think.
What? Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Yeah. I honestly, like, I think I posted a video like maybe like the day after the election or before, where I kind of made this exact case where it's like that whole I felt kind of stupid because I knew better than to buy into this kind of a system. In fact, I used to not vote because I was like, I'm not participating in this. I think it's a farce. I'm not going to participate. And I did vote. And so I kind of felt dumb for doing that. And I remember thinking like, okay, so if nothing happens here, like if they just decide to punt this, then that's it. That's the end of it. That's the end of the country, essentially. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean it's the end of my life. It just means that the normal rules of operating don't apply, and they probably haven't for some time. So, to me, it's like people keep saying on Gab, like, well, if you don't vote, then there's definitely no hope. And I'm like, but you're misunderstanding my point. There's definitely no hope now for the system. You know what I mean? Like, we're already there. It's not. So I'm not gonna. To me, the opportunity cost of taking 2 hours to go and vote is too costly. I lose that battle. Those 2 hours are more valuable to me to do 2 hours of work for myself and my family than to vote for the country. You know what I mean? It's pointless.
Absolutely. I think it's pointless right now as things are. I'm glad you voted the second time around for Donald Trump. I'm glad I voted, because as a lot of the people that are in the fight, even right now, say that it was a blessing that so many of us voted and this happened, because we would have never known for sure that they have been cheating for so long, because the whole reason they had to shut down those states is because so many people voted and the system was so rigged, they had to stop it to be able to continue on the rig. And if people just never did vote in last election, we would have never known. Joe Biden would have slightly won. There would have been people that were still very negative and kind of the fringe, quote unquote, who would think that it's all rigged, but there wouldn't be any proof. But now we have all the proof. And I'm with you from now on that if nothing else changes, all things being equal, then there is no point of voting. I'm not going to vote next time if nothing changes. I mean, they were cheating in Florida too. Just because Donald Trump won doesn't mean they weren't cheating here. Donations, worthless.
And it's not GOP. And people, when I did this video, it was like pretty right after the election. So it was pretty raw and everything was still kind of happening. And there was rumors of wars and all kinds of stuff. So like, at the time, people were like, well, you're just giving up. That's just defeatist. And I'm like, no. It's not defeatist. It's just playing a different game. I'm not playing the rigged game anymore. So if the basketball game is rigged, it's stupid to continue playing the rigged game. You got to play a different game. And so it's not giving up. It's just refusing to play a rigged game.
Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't even say it like that, because I don't think it does justice to your position. I would rather say it is, you're just choosing not to fight that battle. You're still participating in the same war, but you're going to fight on a different battlefield.
Yes.
There's still the same objective of being free, of putting your government into place. You're not just not playing the game. You are playing the strategy game. You're just not choosing to fight on the enemy's terms.
Right. We don't have
that's
to
how we need to think of that.
That's a great point. It's a slight difference, but it's important because it's the same war. It's the same battle. I'm not changing the game, but I don't have to fight where my opponent insists that I fight. In fact, sometimes choosing the battlefield is the way you win or lose. So I'm not going to play on the battlefield with all the booby traps in their advantage, to their favor. Like, I could fight where I can make the fight come to me, because that's the thing about this enemy that's actually pretty interesting. I saw a meme today, like that old school boxer guy with his mustache, and he's kind of like this bare knuckle boxer guy. And it said something like, they've got us surrounded, the poor bastards, or something like that. And Doug Wilson says the same thing, because it's like, okay, like the enemy's surrounding us. They think they've got us right where they want them, and they can't help themselves. They're going to have to come after us. They want it all. They hate everything about God's creation, so they're not going to leave us alone. So it's like, so the thing is, though, that they think that works to their advantage. Like, they think that they've got it all. They're not thinking in terms of God and his people and his church. Like it might look like they've got everything, but they actually don't have everything. We don't have to fight on their platform. That's why I gave up Twitter and Facebook. It's like, what's the point? I mean, I'm not going to fight on their platform. If I'm going to spend time and energy doing something, I'm going to do something that has a lasting return. And so I probably gave up short-term returns in the interim by giving up those platforms. But I think long-term, that'll work to my advantage. So it's stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And even if it's not necessarily to your advantage per se, you're not participating in helping the enemy get an advantage at the flip side of it. It's like, I see all this stuff about Facebook banning things and not letting links go through, and how they're taking their money and funding things that are totally against us, and for election tampering and socialist agendas and helping with the Communist Party. And it's
Sure.
like when you're on Facebook, you're participating in that. It's like, who cares
Sure.
what return you get on it? You stop helping the enemy. I mean, that's pretty.
That's
War
Torber's thing,
Games
yeah.
101. Don't help your enemy win. So yeah, I'm really thankful that you did that, because that's one of the things that got my mind going to get rid of it too, and do not regret it at all.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling great.
Really good. Montana says, I used to think that America would never fall to socialism in my lifetime. No, now things are happening so fast, I'm not even sure America makes it to 2030 before it's fallen to socialism. I am saying that, and this is my red pill talking, I guess, that we fell to socialism back in Woodrow Wilson, Roosevelt days. It's just been slowly playing out. I'm worried about becoming straight on communist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
They're smarter now. So I was watching this video the other day about, I think it was Argentina, and they had a currency crisis, and like some of the activities that the government was up to in Argentina. So when in Argentina, they made decisions like overnight where it devalued the currency like ridiculous amounts, like overnight. So it was like a quick, like, it was very obvious to everybody what had happened. So that's the stupid way to do it. The smart way to do it is the way that modern governments do it. And it's like, they're doing the same thing. They're debasing their own currencies. They're printing all kinds of money and stuff, but they do it slow. They slow roll it. And so it's hidden, and it's easier to pull levers to not, really see it instantly like the way they did in Argentina. So it's the same system. It's the same program. It's the same everything. It's just done in a more subtle way in modern Western countries than it is in like Argentina.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I agree with you. We've been socialist for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, our public schools.
Yeah.
And our retirement programs.
Yeah.
Now our healthcare. I mean, we don't even consider it socialism because we've been so brainwashed, like the point that you've been driving home for so long.
I'll never forget the Russell Moore video where he's like, no one would ever deny that, some social safety net is that's not socialism, having a social safety net. And I'm like, no, that's the literal definition of it. It is socialism. And that's the point. Like, he can get away with saying something like that, like having, like, it's not socialist to have some social safety net. No, that's literally what it is. So it's like, it might not be as bad as it was in country XYZ, whatever, but it is that, and so are schools, and so is everything. So, like you said, public schools, people would freak out if AOC got on TV today and said it's a fundamental human right to get your college degree paid for by the government. People would call her stupid and make fun of her and stuff like that, and all that. But like, it's literally no different than K through 12 being provided by the government. It's no different except in degree. So it's like, she gets ripped for being a dumb idiot socialist, but like, the thing is, like, lots of conservatives defend K through 12, and that's it's worse because it's 13 years. AOC's is only asking for 4 more.
Your formative years,
right? That's it's way worse, and it's like, but that's like accepted. And if you, in fact, the first time I got called a white privileged bigot was because I was saying that public schools should be broken down and dismantled and sold off to private entities. And they were like, well, what kind of a white privileged bigot are you?
And even to further this point, because I think it really does need to be driven home, because so many Americans we need reset for sure. We do. I'm telling you, there's like nothing to hold on to anymore from a institutional perspective.
I agree.
Oh my gosh. But okay, so COVID happened, everything was closed down, and it became a political talking point to conservatives to open up the schools to get kids to go back to public schools and to get people back into the public schools. That was the conservative political position.
Yeah.
We have been so brainwashed and so indoctrinated into socialism. The constitutional conservatives, Donald Trump, lobbied and positioned himself to get people to go back to the socialist programs.
Yeah.
And no one saw any inconsistencies whatsoever with that.
Right. And so if you ask me, okay, AD, so like, would you prefer to have, college paid for by the public as well? I'm like, no. If you ask me, if I prefer more socialism or less socialism, I prefer less. but
Mhm.
but that's I don't have to answer that question that way. Like I don't want any of it. Like I don't want any socialism. So like it's
Mhm.
not like because I prefer less money being stolen, then that's great. Then that's okay. No, it's not okay. No, I don't want any money stolen. I just want to like be normal. Like I just want to have a normal society. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what I want. But the thing is like and Montana here is saying that's there's certain things that we have that socialist countries don't have. Innocent till proven guilty, fair trial, stuff like that. And
We do? We have that?
Right. That's my point. So it's like, okay, yeah, we have it's written into the law, but what is it? I mean, there's lots of things written into the law that aren't paid attention to anymore.
Hashtag Derek Chauvin.
I'm gonna let the white guy defend him. But anyway, but that's the point. Like, yeah, it's like, okay, so why fight for a constitution if everyone just ignores it anyway?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference? Like, if we have one or not, if we don't act like we have one, then we don't have one.
Right. Yeah. No, I honestly, though, it's not even that, because if we were actually adhering to the Constitution, then I would say fight for it. We wouldn't be in the position we're in. The Constitution doesn't exist anymore. It literally is as much of a history document as anything else. It's not law. No one pretends to adhere to it. The Supreme Court sole job is to interpret laws and rulings and cases against the Constitution. They don't even reference it anymore. They don't even care if it bends it or not. They try to, put into their own political philosophies into it. They don't interpret it as it is. They created stupid terms like a living document. So no, I mean, I would love to have that as a framework to start rebuilding on, and then add to it like the emphasis of the Christian Bible being into it and things like that, and being a part of it. But we are delusional if we think we have any kind of constitutional system whatsoever. That was gone 100 years ago.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind the Constitution at all. But the thing is, we're just too far gone. We've just stepped way too far outside of that. And the reality is that most conservatives will ignore the Constitution whenever it suits them as well. It's like it's just the state of things. And all you got to do is put a little bit of pressure on the system, and they'll ignore the Constitution. It doesn't matter. And so it's like, I don't mind the Constitution. I think it could be better than it is. And I would be fine using it as a framework. But we're like, there's so many steps between there and now. Yeah. Like we have to, like the nations have to be converted, and then they can be discipled. Like we have to worry about the conversion first. Like most people aren't converted in the country. So we can disciple who we got, but it's not going to do much good if, the majority of people are just going to do whatever they want anyway.
Yeah, absolutely right. I have to go back. Austin had such a great line. He's like, sure, we can turn this around. And then he said something to the effect of, that's what the captain of the Suez Canal ship said too. I thought that was a good one. AD did not think it was good. Austin, I thought you're funny.
No, I'm sorry. I was reading another person's comment. Sorry, Austin.
Of course. Austin's great. We're going to meet up for lunch. He's going to be coming down this way.
Oh, nice, man. I talked to him the other day on the phone.
Oh, you did? You love talking to people on the phone.
I talk to a lot of people on the phone, yeah.
You do, yeah. It's crazy. In the propaganda world, yep, we live in a propaganda world for sure. That's you, socialist, communist version of justice. We're far from perfect. We don't have that yet.
Right. We don't have it like to the degree of North Korea. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
we definitely don't have it to the degree of North Korea. But the thing is, right. So like at this point, so we're at the point, like everything's on a spectrum, I think, when it comes to this. So it's like, we're at the point now where you might not be allowed to have a business if you're on the blacklist. Or you might not be able to bank. Like that's clearly on the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like if you can't bank or have a business or stuff like that, and the government just sits back and allows that and in many ways encourages it, then that's on the spectrum of North Korea. It is. And then if there are certain mobs that are allowed to rage and do whatever they want and other mobs that aren't, and the hammer dropped on them, that's not justice either. That's on the spectrum of communism and all that kind of stuff. So no, it's not as bad. Like Montana, like that's the point. Like it's not as bad. If you're asking me if I prefer North Korea to the United States, no, obviously I don't. But I prefer like not to be socialist in any way. That's what I'd prefer. You know what I mean?
Prefer America 200 years ago as well. And this is it. So we're not communist yet, like North Korea.
No,
we're very much fascist though. And I don't know, did you see the Project Veritas? I know you love them so much. Their latest video.
I don't mind them, but no, I didn't see it. I heard about it though.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty good one. They admitted one of the directors that does the programming. So it's not the people that you see on screen that are thinking. They're just actors that read a script from a teleprompter, right? But this was one of the guys that actually determines what is shown on the screen, what topics are covered, what are not. And he said on camera to this person he met on Tinder or whatever it was, that they, from the top, Zucker, who is the CEO, were determined their sole mission was to not get Donald Trump reelected, and then to stir up fear with COVID and putting the death numbers up, like things that we know from just kind of common sense, like, oh, you're doing that because you're trying to push a narrative. But they admitted it, and that they don't even care about the news. And they were saying this explicitly, and that their sole focus was to not have Donald Trump reelected. And then he said, our next thing is not going to be climate change, but a climate emergency. That's their new phrasing of it, because people are tired of COVID, so they're switching to something new. And so that's Pravda. That is exactly like what happened in Russia with the media, but it's just privatized. And so it's fascist in tactics. And so, yeah, the government isn't determining who can do business like China does and North Korea does, but Amazon is sure kicking you off your servers.
Sure.
And Stripe and all these other financial institutions are not letting Gab be on their bank accounts anymore. It's fascism instead of communism. So yeah, it's not the same, but it kind of is in all intents and purposes.
Yeah, the climate emergency, that makes sense. You know what I mean? They're going to start dumping chemicals on us from the airplanes, because that's the new idea. It's a new idea to attach. Here's the thing. It's a novel idea. They're going to attach sprayers to the back of the airplane to spray chemicals in the sky. And then they're going to reflect the sunlight back out into space where it's safe and it can't hurt us anymore. Because if there's one thing that from, I know, Matt, you're a young guy, but humanity and you've gotten wisdom over the years. If there's one thing that your parents told you and their parents told them, and it's just been brought down from generation, the sun is bad. And we have to block it out because it's bad. It actually is harmful to life here on Earth. If there's one thing we know, it's the sun is evil.
Yeah. So
we have to block it out. We just have to. And so we're going to do the chemtrails thing now. No, you remember, you seem to remember, Matt, the way your eyes looked, you seem to remember that chemtrails used to be a conspiracy theory. And it's never been a conspiracy theory. It's always been the thing that's going to save us from the sun, which is evil. And the sun, the sun has always been evil, by the way. Like, I know you remember it being good. Go out and get some sunlight, get some fresh air. You remember, no, you don't remember that. It's always been evil, and it's always been bad to go outside, and scary and dangerous.
You're so right. And I remember as a kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, that the thing that was the scary thing that was going to end the world was holes in the ozone layer to let the sun in. Do you remember that? And it was like we were trying to get away from spray bottles because of the cans that would create the hole in the ozone, and then the sun would come through. And I remember, like, as a kid, just being scared, like, oh my gosh, I can't use a spray can anymore. And, of course, it's evolved over the years. But, AD, I watched your show, and I knew it was going to be about chemtrails before I pushed play, because YouTube cited you below. I sent you the screenshot of it.
Contrails.
From Britannica, I think it was.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yes. Yeah. Fact checking you about it being contrails. And I'm like, oh, he's talking about chemtrails. I watched that.
We're in such a dystopia, Matt, that it's actually literally about chemtrails, and it's officially about chemtrails now. It's a new plan. They're going to do chemtrails. and they're still fact checking. The fact checker has to catch up to whatever the new lie is. So the new lie is that it's going to save us all.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with offshoring your fact checkers. They're just not up to beat on the culture. So you get what you pay for, even when you're evil.
Ozone layer, man. The
Oh my
ozone
gosh.
layer. I'll never forget the ozone.
Right?
It was terrifying.
And it was the sun is bad still. It was the sun's going to kill us.
Bad. But this is the
because
thing,
of
like,
human error.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, young AD, I do remember the ozone as well, but I had a dream when I was a young kid, and the dream was we had to come inside because the sun was having a baby, and a little sun was coming out of the big sun, and it was going to be too hot. We had to go inside, and I was running, trying to get inside, and I made it, but barely. The sun was having a baby, and little did I know at that moment that Bill Gates was going to have a plan to save me. All hail Bill Gates.
I'm so glad that he is so involved in science and such an expert.
Yes,
science.
everything.
What would we do?
I'm so glad that he's the biggest farmland owner in the country. There's nothing nefarious about that.
Oh yeah, second to China.
Psychopath, man.
I know, totally. I follow Patrick Byrne a lot because he's still doing a lot of the investigation stuff and whatnot.
Okay,
and he said somebody a long time ago, because he's been an FBI informant. He's done a lot of stuff that's kind of weird to me. And it's going to be interesting to hear his full story someday. But he said somebody came to him and offered him to become one of the billionaires if he just does what the government says for him to do. And the government said to him, he says, that they've done it for the other people, and you just need to get along with the program and we'll make you one of the billionaires. And I just thought automatically Bill Gates, all of these people, like not even just like Jeffrey Epstein, but obviously Jeffrey Epstein as well. It's like, how do you become a billionaire on your own? Like, I understand like a Rothschild kind of situation where it was like the perfect time and setting where no one was lending money and you're like, hey, we're going to lend money. And then just over a generation, you just start collecting more and more wealth. Kind of get that. But like, if you just think about our normal lives and how hard it is to hustle to make success happen just at a normal level, like a billionaire, like maybe these are all government sponsored billionaires after all. Like, is Bill Gates really this smart? Why are they letting him talk about science? Maybe he is playing a role for the government.
I don't know, man. I think that, so there's some interesting, weird conspiracy stuff about exactly this topic. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that when you look at their activities and you hear how they are and you see what they're all about and you know their backstory and stuff, that you wonder about, like, is this like this is an asset? I've thought that often about Elon Musk, that he's an asset.
Mm-hmm.
He's a real weirdo.
And it makes sense because just logically you think.
I don't know that. This is just speculation.
Allegedly.
Not
even allegedly. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But you think about it just common sense wise. It's really hard to actually run a company.
Yeah.
Let alone like pioneer a new industry.
Yeah.
Multiple times over again. Not only are you trying to be the electric car company of the world and doing a great job at that, you're also excelling at space exploration, and you're able to do both of those equally and then go on Joe Rogan and smoke pot. Like, maybe there's more to this story than just one guy being superhuman.
Yeah.
It goes back to like what we were saying before of like, you're making something building up so great and so perfect. It's probably not true.
Yeah. The space thing is what threw me. Definitely. It's just such a weird thing. Very, very weird. And then it's just, I don't know. And you're right. It's just like the whole mentality. Oh, he's like a mad scientist. He's like the perfect thing to be just not what it seems. This is really what it's, and he's so cryptic. Everything is so cryptic. And I think a lot of these guys too, one of the things that I've noticed is oftentimes you'll get these people that rise to stardom and then they start talking about stuff that's weird. Like they'll start saying, things about like abuse or like weird rituals and stuff. And then they have this breakdown that happens after that. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that the weird talk about the rituals and the cult and stuff, maybe that was part of their breakdown. Okay, yeah, that's possible. It's part of their breakdown. But then but why is it like such a consistent pattern with some of these people? Yeah, I just don't get it. I'm not going to go into it too much here because I'm not really prepared to talk about this stuff. But there's just so much stuff like that I wonder, like, these CIA guys are freaking creeps, and they admit to this kind of stuff they do to other countries,
Right.
and they admit to exactly these kinds of tactics. These economic, there's economic hitmen out there, and there's economic, things that you can get if you play ball. So if they admit that they're doing this elsewhere, they're obviously doing it here.
Right. Yeah. It's like you take sinful people and you let them be secretive and compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Nothing can go wrong there whatsoever.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah. I am Smith is saying MK Ultra. That's a very, very, if you have never looked into the MK Ultra conspiracy stuff, and I say that not to make it direct, like not to say that it's stupid. It is fascinating and disturbing to the nth degree. You should look into it.
What is it? MK Ultra?
MK Ultra. Do yourself a favor. If you've got a few minutes tomorrow, watch some MK Ultra stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in the Ultra. I'm gonna put
it's
it
a
in
mind
the browser.
control. It's a mind control project that the government got involved themselves in.
Of course they did. But going back to before we went off to our billionaire off topic, is I was watching your show, and after the chemtrails thing, I had to call my brother, or I texted him actually, and I had to apologize because he has been on the chemtrail thing for probably 5 years now.
Yep.
And it's just been so funny. Like our whole family's made fun of him. Like I've been trying to be open about it. It's like, okay, but what's the motive? Who's paying for it? Obviously it's expensive. Why would the government want to do it? Like what is in the clouds and all of these different things. And it was just he would be driving and we'd be going to the river and he'd look out his window and he'd be like mumbling to himself like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this. They're giving us cancer. Oh my gosh. And we would just laugh so hard. But I watched your clip of Bill Gates
with the chemtrails.
Chemtrails to blot out the sun. And they were passing this on to other countries and trying to sell it and stuff. I was like, hey, John, I'm sorry. You were right. I was wrong. I was skeptical. You were
and the
right
thing
again.
This is the thing about conspiracy theory stuff. Like oftentimes they're right on the basic facts. Like it's not normal to see all the chemicals coming out of the back of the plane. That's not actually normal. But then like what happens is though that a lot of times they'll get into reasons why or stuff like that, or like who's doing it and why. And that stuff is sometimes very flimsy in my opinion.
I agree.
That's just my opinion. So then like, so that's the thing. So it's like, but like at the very least, like, don't we like deserve to know what you're up to? I mean, we have to breathe that air. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's reasonable to me. Like that's reasonable. And I just, the censorship stuff, I hate that stuff where like, I don't really mind that they put that on my video, but it really is kind of dystopian that they did that.
Totally.
Like I'm not making any claims here. I'm reporting a CNN story or a CNBC story. And I get a disclaimer. Well, there's really just contrails. No. This is actually chemtrail. They're talking about the chemicals. They're going to put calcium bicarbonate, whatever they said, into the sky. Yeah. This is what their plan is. No, that's contrails.
I know. It's like YouTube kicking me out for literally reading the laws of the state. I was sending disinformation about the state. I was literally reading the laws and got kicked out for it. It is exactly like Pravda, like going back to the communism thing. It's you have to learn how to read the press and not take it for what it's saying, but read behind the lines. And like that's how communist people got used to understanding the news, is they wouldn't take what was said. They would read between the lines and how it was said and what they were saying, and then take basically the exact opposite as truth of what's happening. But going back to the contrails, because this is an interesting point, because I lived in Hawaii for a while, saw tons of planes fly all the time, and I would actually see a lot of contrails. And there's a notable difference between contrails and chemtrails. The contrails disintegrate, and they don't linger. But whatever, and I didn't know what it was before. I knew there was a difference, but apparently that's what they've been spraying in California and Florida and all these other places, is the chemtrails linger, and they actually turn into clouds of some form. They look like little cotton being pulled apart. I don't see contrails ever doing that. They disappear shortly after. But the chemtrails look exactly like what you hire somebody to go paint their name in the sky or something.
Sure.
Where they're purposely letting stuff out.
Yeah.
There's a difference between contrails and chemtrails, even if you don't you didn't know about the Bill Gates thing. Just watching what happens, you can see a clear difference.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I remember during the Olympics in China one year, they were seeding the clouds is what it was called. I don't really know anything about this. They're seeding the clouds so that it will rain and there won't be pollution anymore. And I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, that doesn't sound normal. Like, what is that supposed to mean, seeding the clouds? Like, I don't like that. And it's like, but I'm the one who gets, you know, I'm crazy if I even mention the fact that I don't really remember all that stuff in the sky when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember all that, but you know, I'm the crazy one, of course. And the thing is, like it's a tactic. I mean, conspiracy theory label is a tactic that was developed by the government to shut down questions, to shut things down, to make it so that you don't want to lose your social standing. So you don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist. Like the last thing people want to be called.
Right.
But it's just so crazy. Like you watch these things unfold and people are asking, like, how many of these things have been confirmed recently? I mean, it's just so crazy.
And everything's been confirmed recently. Every single one of our conspiracy theories.
Yeah, there's like weird satanic cults in the government. There's UFO studies and stuff like that. There's chemtrails. What else is there? I mean, like, what else could there be? I remember. Listen, I'm old enough to remember when the vaccine passport was supposed to be a conspiracy theory. That was like 2 weeks ago.
I know. And again, another fascist tactic is the Biden administration saying, no, we're not going to mandate it. But then all of the companies that are far left globalists are mandating it for you to buy and sell from their companies. So, I mean, I
honestly, I appreciate all these companies that are doing this because it just makes my resolve to never, ever let that needle anywhere near me even more strong. All these stupid companies that are doing this, I'm like, there's just no way. Every time another company says something about it, it just more and more steel in my veins about, nope, I'm not getting this thing.
Yep. Exactly right. I even was talking with someone about the vaccines today, and they were saying, oh, are you getting the vaccines? And they were kind of saying it super awkwardly. They weren't sure what my stance on it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to take them because I kind of like to see a track record and see where they go. I don't like things that are rushed and never been done before. And they promise, like, again, the theme of the show, they promise something perfect. Like, oh, it's a 95% success rate.
Exactly.
And all of this stuff. And they're like, oh, well, why don't you just take the Johnson & Johnson? That's not the RNA vaccine. I'm like, oh, you mean the one that they just stopped giving out because of blood clots? And he had no clue. These people just don't have any clue.
Did we talk about how, like, I don't know if we did or not, but when coronavirus came out, like when it was hot on the scene and everyone was talking about it, like it took me like 6 months to know someone who had it. Like 6 months. Like it was like the hottest thing out there. Everyone was trying to get a copy of coronavirus, but I didn't know anyone that had it for like 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of this, with the vaccine, I've known, like, probably within 2 weeks, I've known like 10 people who had gotten it and got really sick for a few days after they got it. Like it's so crazy. Like, and somehow that's not a major story. It's like everyone who gets the vaccine gets sick. And when coronavirus was the hottest thing out there, it was so hot. But remember that? It was so hot back then.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody had it. Nobody had it. So I was like, wait, what's going on here? Like, shouldn't that be a huge story? Like, massive amounts of people getting sick from getting the coronavirus vaccine?
Well, AD, that's what the Project Veritas video broke, is CNN admitted that they're not reporting news, they're reporting narratives, and they're trying to scare people. So they're trying to scare people from a virus. They're not trying to scare people to keep them from the vaccine. They're trying to get everyone on the vaccine. And specifically the RNA ones. Isn't it funny that the two that are actual traditional vaccines are banned? But the two RNA ones.
What I wonder is the people that set these stories up, like these are all stories that the powers that be are selling you. You know, they're selling you the fear on the one hand. On the other hand, they're selling you the salvation from the vaccine, and then the Bill Gates salvation. You know, so like these are all stories that someone or a group of people developed. So I wonder sometimes how compartmentalized are these stories? Like, obviously, like you mentioned, the pretty woman that's reading the news, she's just an actress, obviously. But like,
Right.
The person that you mentioned, the CNN guy, like the one from the Project Veritas video.
Uh-huh.
So is he also just an order taker? Like, is he just knowing his piece of it, what he needs to do? Or is he part of like the story development team? Like, there's got to be a couple people that are like a team of people. I wonder how deep it goes, though. You know what I mean?
I think that team is the Associated Press. Because they've already, it's not a secret that that's where the news people go to get their news, is the AP. And I think that's how we get everyone with the clips saying the same exact thing, is they're just regurgitating what the Associated Press says. And so they don't have to necessarily shape the narrative that's provided for them, but then they have the directors that create the experience around the message and try to create the ratings and to create and sell the narrative itself. So that's how I think it's happening, is the AP, whoever's behind that is shaping it.
It's a very effective little scheme they got going on there.
Oh, it's so crazy.
Culture Dweeb. It's a new video. It's fresh out recently, and it got O'Keefe banned from Twitter. So you should go to Project Veritas' website. Probably it's the first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, and then he's doing videos too afterwards where he's calling CNN reporters and asking them to comment on it. Oh, it's so good.
He's good because he's a troll as well.
Oh, and he's so good at it. I mean, he was on the conference calls for CNN for the longest time. It was so great. And another thing they admitted to was propping up the stories about Matt Gaetz to try to get him, I was going to say fired, but that's not the right word, but removed from office because he was a threat to the left. He admitted that on the video as well, because there's this whole thing about him being with underage people and at orgies and stuff, ironically in my city that I live.
Oh man.
Apparently it's a crazy place where I live. But yeah, it was a fantastic video. I would recommend you watching it. It might
I will
revive your hope or your faith in Veritas.
I listen. I think I said that, some of his stuff is interesting. It just never really paid off for me. Mm-hmm. So I like him. I mean, in the same way that I kind of like Trump. Like at the same time, like I don't feel like he's. Well, we'll see. I'll watch it. I'll give him another shot. I'll give him another chance.
Watch it. Let us know. Let us know either on your own show or on our show next week of what you think about it, because I think it was a good one. But I agreed with you in most part. I think that a lot of them are just like, it's not that great. And you really talked that up. Is Matt Gaetz' political career over? I don't think so. I don't think it's over. I think these are all fake or designed to do what that guy said in the CNN video, that they're trying to destroy him because he is effective. I think that he is probably smarter than Trump and is more charismatic than he is. I think Trump was just simply, he knew the buttons to hit and no one else was ballsy enough to do it, and he did it. I don't think that he's this person that people built him up to be, that he's this master chess player. I think he's great at branding. I think he's great at messaging. He saw a niche to fill and it resonated incredibly, and he did good things. And again, I'm not taking away from everything, but the people he hired around him were horrible. Some of the missteps he's done were been terrible. So I don't know, but yeah, I think Matt Gaetz is a big threat and they're really scared of him. I mean, he went straight to Wyoming and called out Liz Cheney. She's one of the in crowd. Right. I mean, that's dangerous when you're thinking about it from that perspective.
I think Trump, looking back on him, there's some clear, and at the time we knew this, that there were some clear problems with the people he was hiring and stuff like that. And so there's issues with him, but I think the good thing there, though, and I've been pretty consistent about this, what I really like about him is he gives you the template for how to deal with these people in general. Yes. There's no like he didn't give an inch, at least when it came to his rhetoric, to these people. Not at all. He didn't respect their positions. He didn't respect their nonsense. He mocked them. Right. Like I could just imagine that whole scenario in Alaska with the Chinese ambassador ripping us for our racism. I could just imagine how that would have gone down if Trump was there. He would have been like, we talk about racism. You guys got, he would have immediately just completely disrespected it. No respect to that at all. And start talking back about what China's up to. It's doesn't exist, instead of the groveling that so many politicians are used to doing. And the
Oh my God,
Republicans they grovel better than anybody. They grovel.
yeah.
And so he was finally a Republican that was not going to grovel. And that's a very good template. So there's lots of things, lots of lessons to learn and lots of things to emulate. There's definitely some things you want to avoid with Trump as a template, but that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, and I think Matt Gaetz saw that, and for if it's real or not, I don't know, but kind of emulated that and is doing it a little better. And he's younger. He's not ready to be president yet, I don't think. But I think people saw the trajectory that he was on, and the fact that he was willing to turn on his own and literally go campaign against Republicans. No one in the establishment likes that, for sure. And so I think that is why those things were coming out. But isn't it interesting, though, that the whole thing happened in Alaska, and we were saying like what Trump would have done, but they never did that to Trump. That's kind of interesting to me.
They didn't even do it.
Is that he was somebody who would fight back and mock you and disrespect you, but somehow he created these relationships with like China, our enemy, where they respected him enough where they wouldn't dare do what they did to Biden. Wouldn't dare do it. I mean, they just now said that we're equals to them, that they said that they're no longer a subordinate to the United States. They never would have said those things at all when Trump was in office. They were scared of him for what he was doing. But Biden's so weak and feckless that they're able to say these things. And it's just interesting with what we're saying about he gave us a template on how to fight back and mock and ridicule and punch back harder. And somehow he was able to build relationships out of that, which is so counterintuitive to anything our culture tells us, right?
That's very true. That's very true.
That's very true. Okay, I wanted to hit this one story, which I think is fascinating. And it comes from the U.S. Navy. It is revolving the UFO stories that we've been talking about, and I want to hit on it because it's kind of interesting. I almost want to just play the video. I don't know. It's kind of long. It's like 5 minutes. Maybe I'll put the link in the show notes if I remember to do it. But basically, it has to do with Donald Trump's uncle, oddly enough. Apparently, he was a scientist that was working for the U.S. Navy. And it involves what Tesla was working on back in the day and how counter-rotating objects creates some kind of, I don't know, physics field. I'm not a scientist or whatsoever, which allowed things to go higher and fall faster than something that wasn't counter spinning like that. And there was a lot of actual development in these the motions, the physics of motions, and that is where they, I don't know what's the word for it, speculate that's why we see rotating things in the clouds and things that necessarily are floating. It's that they've developed this technology. It's not aliens. It's just that they've developed the Tesla technology of using things that defy physics in our terms. And the U.S. Navy apparently announced that they have technology like this that's going to change the fabric of reality, is the quote. And that's what they were speculating that this could be that. And I thought it was just actually really interesting. If you have a chance, you should check it out. The video or the article is called U.S. Navy Announces New Technology That Can Change the Fabric of Reality. And I just even thinking like with the bomber, the B-2 bomber, the stealth bomber that looks like the Batman thing, like from a physics perspective, that shouldn't fly.
Sure.
That's too big, and the way that the wings are shaped,
it's very weird.
And it's so weird. And from what I understand from the sources I've had, that humans can't even fly it. It requires computers because of the tweaks and how it has to make decisions so quickly. So I mean, it could be. It's interesting. It's a funny story, but I mean, that to me, that's way more plausible than aliens of what we're seeing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Aliens is preposterous.
It's good.
I am Smith says if they're announcing it now, they've had it for 50 years. I would agree with that.
I 100% agree with that.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's it. We can talk about some other things before. Man, I wanted to talk about some other things. Let's talk about this real quick because this one really upsets me. We got a few minutes. An army drill, and it's a developing story, so the facts might change. But as I've heard it now, and there's been some witnesses backing it up, there was this black guy walking in a neighborhood, and I say he's black only for this reason, is people are making this a racial issue when I don't think it is. Okay. And this guy, he's a drill sergeant for the Army. He got suspended because of this incident. And what happened, from what I can tell, is that this guy was walking around the neighborhood, picked on this girl, and tried to pull her pants down. and her and a witness said that's what happened. And so this neighbor saw that the girl was screaming for help and saw this guy he's never seen before in the neighborhood and was telling him to leave and to get out of the neighborhood. And the guy was saying he lived there, and then there was this back and forth like, hey, I've never seen you before, get out of here. And he pushed him once. And so he got arrested for pushing the guy because he wasn't leaving.
Okay.
And then he got, in the military, he got suspended until further investigation. And it really infuriates me so much, is because not just necessarily they've tried to play the racial angle. I kind of expect that now. But this man was responding to these women being harassed by this man, and he was doing the right thing. If the facts are true, if the facts as we know it are true, and I mean the internet's blowing up on it, he got suspended already. They don't know any more facts than we do about it because the investigation hasn't happened. That this man was protecting children or girls in his neighborhood, and he's getting fired or he's getting suspended. He got arrested for it. Nothing happened to this guy who, by witnesses, said pulled pants down, tried to harass these women. And what makes it so infuriating to me is we are now in this society where we can't even defend women from men without expecting negative consequences to come to us. And like, this is a society that's not going to last. It's not going to stay together. You cannot have a functioning society if the person getting punished is the one protecting the innocent or the people that are weaker. It's one of those things where it just made me think, okay, we need to reset this whole thing. It's not working.
You heard it here first. Matt supports the Great Reset.
Oh, okay. That's the heading of the show. Thank you for giving that to me. It's one of the things I hate doing the most is figuring out a title for our shows because we bounce around so much.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. Great conversation, great questions. We will talk to you next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursdays. Catch us there. If you don't, you can catch the recordings wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. You can support us at patreon.com/reformgelical. Thank you for everyone who shares the show. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.
God bless.
I love your